Right, we are now going to have a deep dive into some of the forces, some of the new technologies, some of the new trends that are happening that are going to affect the future of work. And I'd like to invite up onto the stage Manish Madhvani, who's the managing partner of GP Bullhound, to come and moderate the next panel. Manish.
Thanks, Nigel.
So, very quickly, I'll almost guarantee that there's not that many people other than connected to the tech ecosystem would know about GP Bullhound. You're one of the most important players in that ecosystem. Can you just very quickly explain who GPB are?
So I set up the company with 3 friends when we were about 25, and a very simple mission was to invest in and then help the best entrepreneurs and tech companies grow as quickly and smartly as we could. We've been very lucky to work with companies like Spotify, Discord, Revolut, Farfetch, so a lot of the well-known companies that have come through.
All right. So you obviously had a very privileged upbringing then. So and actually at first, you see people in corporate finance and venture capital, setting up a business like that. You think, oh my God, you must have had a real glide path into that. But then when we were chatting a few years ago, you told me that story about being in the comprehensive in Southampton and what the headmaster said to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nigel and I got to know each other, and it was interesting. These meetings normally stay at a surface level, but I'd say we went quite deep fast. And one of the things at my school, I was lucky to go to a good school, state school, but so many children, and you would feel quite sorry for the teachers trying to look after so many people, and quite rowdy, quite disruptive. And I guess I was labelled in the sporty and naughty group.
Energetic.
Energetic is even better. And we did get in a bit of trouble, but it was kind of good trouble. And I'd say when we went for parents' evening, we'd been around with my parents to the teachers, and most teachers had said he's doing quite well. And then we got to the head of year, and he was meant to be giving us advice about universities. And he actually said to my parents, which I couldn't believe, and nor could they, he said, Manish shouldn't really think about university. He's aiming possibly a bit too high. And I was kind of in shock. My parents were in shock, but we left. And I think that was kind of a forming chapter for me. My parents were just saying, you got to really believe in yourself. You don't let anyone else influence what you're going to do. And if you set your mind to something, every day you take a couple of steps towards that. And that's been the best advice for me, to be honest. And I think a lot of my friends have also become really successful entrepreneurs from the same school who were told the same thing.
There we are, and I'm sure every young person here has got great mentoring teachers, but again, through life, you may run up against that. Bash through it. Manish, over to you.
Brilliant, thank you, Nigel. Okay, so first we've got a very cool panel, I think the coolest panel of the day. So if I could ask all of these panel members to come up, please. How you doing? And then maybe if we could start with quick introductions and quickly about what you do.
Yes, hello everyone. I am Angie. I am co-founder of Faculty AI, and we're leading Europe leading AI, apply AI company with over 300 people. So we work with all sorts of organizations, government and companies. So work with, for example, NHS to save lives, work with the Home Office to do counter-terrorism work, and just good old companies to help them do better services and products. And myself, I am a physicist by training, and I've turned entrepreneur maybe 10 years ago, and yeah, we've been running for almost 10 years now.
Thank you. And Ash?
Hi guys, I'm Ash at Ramrachia. I'm the founder of a startup called Academy. I think I can resonate with a lot of the young people in this room. So I was a council estate kid in an inner city part of London. Dad was a bus driver. I was on free school meals and didn't think a lot of the jobs, like investment banking and others, were that accessible. It was very hard to see a path to sort of prestigious jobs. And very luckily, through technology, through the advent of technology, I ended up in the north of England working for an entrepreneur in a startup, and that company in online retail exploded, and it became a multi-thousand, multi-billion pound company. And we, in that company, had a big shortage of the sort of talent we needed. It was in a rough area of the north of England near Manchester, and we were able to hire hundreds and eventually thousands of young people from our area and train them in the skills we needed. And that's the sort of something we take through in the work we do at Academy. And the other thing is I'm helping the government. I'm on the Inclusion at Work panel, reporting to the Secretary of State for Business, and this is about how we get more opportunity spread to young people around the country.
Thank you. Pamela?
Great. Hi, I'm Pamela. I'm our CMO at a new company called Era. We're at the New Kids on the Block. We're a Swedish company, and our mission is really to make clean energy tech accessible for as many people as possible across Europe. And why is that important? Well, there is a global climate crisis, as I'm sure you're aware, and you might be surprised that one of the biggest emitters of CO2 isn't driving cars, but it's actually the way we heat our homes and our hot water. And that's because we use these dirty gas boilers to make sure that we can have a hot shower and be cozy, especially as we go into winter. And so our job is really to get people to switch from boilers and to use new technologies like heat pumps, which use the clean, fresh air that we're all breathing in this room to heat our hot water and keep us warm through our radiators, and solar panels. And that means that we can save CO2. In fact, we would say, more than 80% of all of Europe's cars on the road if we could switch to heat pumps, for example. And we can save people money, significant savings on your energy bills, which I think is really, really important. So that's really our mission, and we've just launched, really, and we're in 3 markets already, Germany, Italy, and the UK. And I'm looking forward to telling you about the kind of jobs that we think we'll create in this new industry.
Thanks. Sabrina?
Yeah, lovely to be here. I'm Sabrina Rodriguez. I'm a marketeer, and I've been spending the past 12 years working in marketing roles in global enterprise businesses in telco, finance, media, advertising. Currently heading up digital marketing for Ericsson globally. Some people in this room might remember Sony Ericsson mobile phones, probably a small percentage, but we don't do mobile phones anymore. Ericsson are the leader in 5G technology. So we sell the 5G networks to telcos, but also increasingly directly to businesses. And we talk a lot about 5G and 6G ultimately being the innovation platform. I think without 5G and 6G, we can't do a lot of what we're talking about today, right, in terms of AI and the future of tech. So really exciting space, lots and lots of change happening. I myself actually studied languages, so I am quite a creative, sort of more on the kind of right side of the brain, if you might say. But communication was ultimately what kind of drove me through my career, and that's what ultimately matters to me, and the technology that allows us to connect better. So that's me.
Great. Steffen?
Yeah, great to be here. I'm Steffen, one of the co-founders of Synthesia, which is the world's leading AI video platform that allows you to just type in text and then create a video. So it's really kind of pioneering the shift from kind of camera recorded content to much more digital process, similar to how other creative disciplines has been disrupted by technology, right? I think 10 years ago, we needed to go to an LA recording studio to create a top charting hit. Today, you can synthesize any tune in the universe on your laptop. And we think video as a medium is just everywhere on every phone with TikTok and Snapchat and YouTube. But the kind of production process and the kind of tools to create content is still very kind of physical. So what Synthesia's mission is to really kind of allow everybody in this room with a great idea to produce a Hollywood-style movie in a few years, just with your imagination and a Synthesia login.
Great.
You're a salesman.
You'll notice everyone's a great marketer on the panel as well. But we have, so we've all spoken about technology. We heard from Matt kind of how quickly it's moved and the evolutions we've been through. But I've got to say this, it's kind of, I've never seen a period like this. It's kind of all of these factors, kind of meta change that we like to predict and monitor at GP Bullhound. We're seeing so many forces come together, and it's quite exhausting for people to try and keep up with where these avenues are going to go to. I think what Nigel said is that creates opportunity. And for people that think about those trends and can really capitalize, become experts on all that, it's going to create some exceptional opportunities. So if we could play just a very quick video kind of summarizing some of these trends that are playing out.
I came in with my ex, like Selena, the flex, bumping Justin Bieber, the fever and left, she know what she need, or she blessed, giving you my best, yeah, I got my heart on my sleeve with a knife in my back, what's with that, 21, I love him, then my brother, that's where it's at, Metro made the beat, so you know that it's gon' slap, yeah, it's gon' slap, tell him, run it back.
So firstly, a show of hands who knew what the song was. Only one person? 2, 3, okay, a few. So people often ask me, which of the industries, which change are you seeing the most? And I think the music industry is a good example of where so many factors are coming together and how fast things are moving. So that song was written by Ghost Rider. So it was artificial intelligence that cloned the voice of Drake and The Weeknd, published it, and it then went viral, nearly 1 million downloads over a weekend. You then think about artificial intelligence. We did a lot of work with Spotify. They're now saying with 97% accuracy, you can work out which song is going to be a hit or not, and that changes everything. And then the final point, you can now log on to Spotify, whichever country you're in, whichever language you speak, listen to a podcast, and it will automatically translate into the language that you need. So it opens you up to masses of content, huge learning. So kicking off with that, if we just go around the panel, which is the one piece of technology or the trend that you're most excited about or see as the most game-changing? So maybe if we could start with you, Angela.
Well, I'm trying to think because we work with so many technology in artificial intelligence. So I think certainly there's a lot of attention to the chatbot, but actually I think it's the ones that working in the background of organization, for example, making like medicine, like drug discovery, for example, to speed that up, those would be hugely impactful. So I'm not saying that's the only one, but it's the one that tends to work in the background that people don't hear very much about.
Okay, great. And Ash?
Well, so one of the things we do is we're trying to help people access sort of the jobs of the future, and a lot of them are happening in technology. And in the past, that would require someone historically to have, STEM sort of academic background, sciences, maths, computer science, and that feels inaccessible to lots of people. And what we do at Academy is we're opening these careers to people who are coming from non-STEM background, often non-degree backgrounds. And very recently, we're seeing with the advent of things like ChatGPT and basically having a co-pilot, we're teaching people to become software engineers or cloud engineers. They're using these tools like Copilot, which is effectively a chatbot, and when they're entering the workplace, employers are saying, wow, they're delivering the output of people with 5 years experience in the first 6 months ever of working. And so I think it's democratizing opportunity, and things like the chatbot and that sort of Copilot concept is extremely exciting.
And I think that's something we hear a lot from entrepreneurs, and this big debate about, is AI going to replace jobs or enhance? And when we see our best entrepreneurs and the smartest people in our company, they're really becoming much more productive. I think it's that fork analogy that we've spoken about. It's exactly like that. If you use AI, there's pretty much technology out there that can help you do your resume, help you get interview practice, become an expert in coding, learn languages faster. I mean, it's incredible. And if you find the right tools and use them as a platform, I think people's development can really improve fast now. And Sabrina, Pamela, technologies?
I don't know if this answers your question, but if I think about my job, I'm a race against time. we've got to really, really stem the CO2 emissions from heating. And I'm sure everybody in this room has a boiler at home. So I need to hire 40,000 clean energy experts, people that can go into your home, that can, make a solution for your home. What kind of technology should you have in it? And also install those products. And for me, I don't know if the AI could install those products, but I definitely think you could help us find ways to reach people, to help bring to life the kind of new jobs that we're going to need. And in the UK, we're going to need 7,500 of them pretty quickly to be able to get to most of the UK homes. In my own personal job as a sort of marketeer and a storyteller, I'm already using chatbots to create job descriptions, for example, to help me translate, to think about creative ways to create content. I actually haven't used yours yet, but that sounds great. I did write
a free login.
Thank you. There was a reason to be on this panel. But the thing I was, even the other day, I was like, well, what kind of film could I create? A bit like that little one you've got there that's engaging and inviting, that would bring to life this challenge, because it's something that no one thinks about boilers, they're so dull. And so I got this beautiful script that came through and I was like, right, I need to get forward with that. So I think in everybody's job, even if you think it's not technology related, there's a way in which AI can play a role. We just need to find what is that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone has said on the panel. I think certainly AI seems to be, the one that is most disruptive to our industry today and tomorrow. And I think, speaking perhaps more from a marketeer's point of view, I'm super excited about the impact on our discipline. I think, my job is obviously to hire, experts in their field across paid media, social media, website, content. And you would not believe the amount of time, almost half of their time, I would say, is spent on extremely menial tasks like, building out PowerPoint decks or, trying to figure out how to use the PO finance system. So just thinking about how much AI can unlock, all of that unlocked potential on creativity and unleashing more creativity and leaning into what we love about our job. And I think, for me, I think there's a really bright future ahead for marketing as well.
Okay, great. And then Steffen, maybe a slightly different question. So if anyone in the audience is thinking about getting a job with you, what advice would you give them to get up to speed on the industry and the change?
I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of these technologies that might seem very crazy and abstract, but I think it's also trying to understand where they're coming from. All these AI systems is trained on underlying data and underlying kind of information we have in our systems. So spending a little bit of time to really kind of go deep and actually try to decompose these technologies is something I would advise many of you to kind of think about, because that will give you a huge leg up for other people really trying to understand where these technology are coming from, because with that understanding, you actually also have ability to change and adapt and create new ways of kind of applying these technologies. So going a bit under the hood and go a little bit deeper.
Great. And then just so slightly off the track of technology, what was some of the best advice you were given when you were kind of at this age thinking about careers, and any people that had a huge influence on your life that may help some of the audience? Who would like to take that?
I loved what you talked about at the beginning. It's like, just say yes to anything. If somebody gives you an opportunity, maybe it's someone that you know and says, do you want to come and do a week's work experience, and I do X, whatever it is. Just, even if that sounds a bit, oh God, I don't know if I want to do that for the rest of my life, just go and give it a go, because you just never know who you're going to meet. You meet one person, then you meet the next person, you meet the next person, and that word, your network becomes bigger. And you can leverage all of those opportunities. And I think at this age, I wish I asked for more help, probably. I probably sat down and thought, God, I should know what I want to do. What is it I want to do? He knows what he wants to do. She knows what she wants to do. My mum thinks I should do this. But what do I actually want? And maybe just asking people for help and having more conversations would have been helpful for me.
I totally agree. I think it really comes down to people, getting to talk to people, even if it's just reaching out and asking for a coffee, trying to learn a little bit more about the business or what they do. Very few times are people going to say, no, I'm all right, thanks. Most people are really happy to help and kind of want to help others and talk about what they do. So I would really encourage everyone in this room, and I'm talking to the established professionals in the room as well as those young talent coming into the workplace, but connections and network is really, really important, not least for your own learning, but also that's where the opportunities come from. One thing I learned about actually through my career was that, you have a mentor. Mentors are great, and I think mentors are extremely valuable. But I think also what's as important is having a sponsor. And having sponsors are also just as important. So sponsors are the sort of people who come over to you and tap you on the shoulder when there's something that's coming around. So that tends to happen through those connections and through those relationship building exercises. So that's what I would, certainly the advice I was given and where I've really benefited from too.
And it reminds me of because we're all talking about all these new opportunities. I mean, technology, the playing field is level because not everyone is an expert. So you can enter these areas and become a genius, as Nigel spoke about quite quickly with some of the really breakout areas. But I remember a lot of the entrepreneurs we would speak to had the same point raised here, that they would be coming from slightly different backgrounds and entering a world that they regarded as elite or posh or out of their league. And I remember this one piece of advice came from one of the most famous tennis players that we're working with, and I can't name them yet, but one of the best that came from a very tough upbringing. And she would say, you wouldn't believe how nervous I still get when I do things like this, or when I have to network, or when I have to go and explore something new. And she said, I learned something when I was very young. Someone gave me advice, an older tennis player gave me advice to create a showreel. And a showreel is simply on your phone, you just list 4 or 5 things that you've done that you're proud of. They don't have to be big, they just make you proud. And we all need reminders. I mean, this panel has spoken on many panels, but everyone was nervous this morning when they woke up. They had to get their confidence up, they had to get back onto the front foot. And the showreel I know so many entrepreneurs that use this now, and you add to the showreel, you build on it, and it gives you that confidence to then go and do what the panel is talking about. Be curious, put yourself out there, take a bit of a risk. Sorry, Ash, you were going to say something.
I just think it's very, very exciting time. The established orders being sort of disrupted. And one bit of advice is that, as when you're at school, you kind of often think there's just this pathway and it's like onto university. And a lot of the advice you get from careers or teachers or even your parents and people, it's like 20 years out of date because it's coming from what life was like when they were going through that system. So a lot of the careers, if you look at the companies who come and try and network and engage with young people, say on universities, they're sort of professions of yesterday, really. And that can kind of funnel you into this sort of, this rat race where it's very, very hard to differentiate or to excel. Whereas there's this whole new avenue opening where if you get a head start and get into some of the new fields that are being created, quite frankly, you've got more chance of rising to the top and earning lots of money quicker than you would do in some of the old industries. And I think that was what was interesting to me when I was young, which is how can I get on as quickly as possible? How can I earn lots of money? Let me do something against the grain. Yeah,
I think that's spot on. And the same applied to us. We had to choose an industry. So we were doing investments, we were doing mergers and acquisitions. We were never going to outcompete the experienced people at that. But they didn't understand tech. So we became real experts in tech and then learned the rest of the stuff at the side. And I think everyone is in a similar fashion. Retail was very established and you guys attacked it from a totally new front, a totally level playing field. And I think that's the opportunity that's playing out here. Quick show of hands, who uses Roblox? No. Who knows about the Metaverse? Who's excited by the Metaverse? Who knows how many people use Roblox every single day?
A lot.
Have a guess.
A lot of kids.
Sorry, how many?
I said a lot of kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
58.5 million people every day in this virtual world. And I think we're all starting to get our heads around it because a lot of the kids are on it, a lot of the brands are super excited by it. But then someone came in and gave us a talk about the opportunities the metaverse is opening up. So they're predicting this year, $8 trillion of value will be transacted within these virtual worlds, within a metaverse. And there's a number of brands that have created some of their best success stories. So Forever 21 is kind of this leading kind of innovative clothing brand. And they designed a hat, a digital hat, that cost them $500 to make, a fraction of the price of a physical hat that when they're designing that. They then launched it into Roblox, and they sold 1 million items of them. That's more than any other goods that they've ever sold, physically or online. Became their best-selling item. They're now producing that hat for real. So firstly, your avatar would be wearing that in the metaverse and looking great. Now you can buy the real hat and wear that in real life. And they're selling that for $15, and it sold 200,000. So it's showing how this world is starting to come together. So if we think about the metaverse, what are the opportunities that we're seeing from maybe Sabrina on the brand side, Pamela?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting space for brands. I think we're still very early on, certainly from maybe my generation upwards, we're still very much kind of playing with it or tinkering with it, but the younger generations are using it. Roblox users in itself, right, the stats speak for themselves. So this generation is coming up through the ranks. It will be the technology that everyone will be using in the next 5-10 years. So it's good to get kind of going with playing with it now. And in the brand space, there's lots of really exciting things that are happening there, from kind of, brands building their own like digital buildings where people can go and kind of experience the brand. In Ericsson, we're playing with the metaverse already when it comes to demoing our products to some of our clients and being able to actually build a fully immersive experience where they can actually experience experience the digital kind of version of our products. We're also looking at ways that we can engage sort of younger talent through the metaverse. So the other kind of area as well that we're looking at using the metaverse is training. So actually getting, especially in an increasingly hybrid and virtual world, right, where you've got people kind of sat at home, being able to kind of literally be in a world where you can interact with the products and actually get trained up in a virtual world is a really exciting space as well. So we're playing with it. I think it's still early days, but there's so much potential there. And I think that's, again, where we need more creativity of thought and more lateral thinking about how we do use this space in more effective ways.
I'm going to actually throw it out to the audience. I'm not doing anything with Era in the metaverse. And so I'd love to know if there's people in the audience that know lots about it. Please come and tell me and come and work with me and tell me what I should be doing in the metaverse. Because I think if I think about the future of work and the kind of jobs that you guys can be doing out there, you guys know a hell of a lot more about these new technologies than us golden oldies. I've been working 20 years. So if there's a better person in this audience that can tell me what to do, please come and reach out to me on LinkedIn, because I've got to run straight from here. I'm not going on a flight like Nigel, getting on the tube, but link in with me, and I would love to hear from people about how I could be leveraging, and Era could be leveraging these kind of new technologies and platforms.
And I think that's Matt was saying play with technology, and then we've had a lot of people saying be curious, and this is probably one of the most fun things about our job. We will go into the office and we do lots of more serious work, but then I will go and play on Roblox. I will see what the latest features are, what's coming out. And one of the most amazing things that's emerging for a lot of students, so a lot of people are funding some of their universities, their coursework. Roblox has opened up this suite of tools to people to create games, and it's pretty easy to create the games on there. And now some of them, and you're just being creative, so some of them have always thought they could make an amazing game, but never had the tools, never had the audience. Some of them, the best-selling games now, are making these students almost $1 million a year. Not all of them, only the top-selling. But it's their curiosity, they took a risk, they went out there, they created, played with it, tinkered with it, and now it's created this amazing source of living for them.
Amazing.
And then maybe if we think about, Steffen, you're seeing on the video side, what do you think, how's that going to change Hollywood over time, or film creation, and what are the potential opportunities for people to think about there?
Yeah, I think if you look at the gap between what you can do as an amateur YouTube creator today, sitting in your mom's bedroom, kind of recording you on a webcam, you see YouTube is filled with these kind of people just recording from their homes, but there's still a massive gap what you can do with hundreds of millions of dollars of visual effects budgets. And I think that gap is just going to diminish over time and really kind of allow everybody with a good idea to create very compelling content. I think if you look at the media history, right, a lot of what you also talked about was really kind of that landscape where a lot of it has been disrupting distribution, right? So we had broadcasting that allowed everybody to broadcast. Then we have the internet that Matt from Google was talking about, right? Where everybody now had the distribution rails to the internet, but still the content creation itself hasn't really been disrupted, right? You still need very expensive actors, studios, cameras, all these type of things, right? Where that is transforming into a much more kind of digital process today, and over the next decade that will be completely kind of democratized as well.
Great, thank you. And just to let everyone know, there's a QR code up on there. So if anyone wants to ask a question, feel free to put your hand up and we'll ask you. If you want to type it in, text it in, use the QR code and send them through, and we'll open them up to the panel. But if we talk about climate change, because I think that's one of the topics. I read a stat somewhere in the US that 76% of all people under 20 are now really aware of climate change and thinking about how do we cause this fundamental shift that has to happen to get to a livable world.
Yeah.
What are the biggest shifts that you think are going to happen over the next few years, and how will people be able to learn about them, capitalize them on the climate side?
Well, obviously, I think one of the biggest shifts is that you'll be ditching your dirty gas boiler and upgrading for an air source heat pump that will look beautiful. And if it's Aera's air source heat pump, then brilliant. But on a serious note, I mean, in the UK, 16% of all our CO2 emissions comes from keeping us warm and having a hot shower. Across Europe, that's 10%. So you can see already we're doing a really bad job versus our neighbours. And in Sweden, where my business was founded only a year ago, it's only 1% of CO2 emissions. And that's because they're using new technologies like air source heat pumps. And that's really, I think, got to be a significant transition. If I think my granddad used to tell me back in the 1930s, if he wanted to go to the toilet, he had to go outside into his garden because the toilet was in the back garden. In the 1950s, we actually didn't have radiators and central heating or boilers in the home. That was only the 1950s. And in, the 1995, we didn't have the internet access into our home like Matt was talking about. Google only launched 1998. My first job was actually launching broadband for BT to try and get people and convince people to have internet in their homes. So I really see this shift from burning gas to heat our homes, to using, whether it's solar panels, to using heat pumps, so that the sun and the air to really heat our homes as the big transition that needs to be made. It will have a significant impact on CO2. So just to give you a comparison, a heat pump will reduce 75% of CO2 automatically just by switching. And if you use solar energy to power your heat pump, that's 100%. So we would take, if I look at Aera, we want to be in 5 million homes in the next decade. It's the equivalent to taking 10 million cars off the road. So it has a significant impact. One of the barriers, though, really to getting this kind of technology, the reason it works so well in Sweden is because it has been really low cost. And that's really my job. It's to bring a proposition here to the UK that means homeowners don't have to invest in £20,000 to put a heat pump in their home. We're really making this accessible by having zero upfront. You pay a monthly fee. So rather than paying British Gas for your gas bill, you'd simply pay for this new technology. You'll automatically reduce your energy bills by 40% here in the UK. And that, I think that makes a big difference in people's lives, because not only is there a climate crisis, there's a cost of living crisis as well. So I think that's one of the big changes that we need.
Great, thank you. Lots of questions coming in now, so keep them coming. So firstly, which I think is a great question, and I have this conversation with my kids a lot, how important do you think it is to go to university now? So who has a strong view there?
It's certainly the sort of employers in the past, and maybe still today, when they recruit people, it's sort of often a case of a sort of screening out mindset. So if they're advertising jobs, they set kind of barriers to entry. And one of them might be you need a specific university degree, or and so you can see lots of the big employers, the big consulting firms, the KPMG, PwC, and dropping these requirements and saying actually maybe you don't need a degree to go. And so that's a big shift that's happening. And in the second area, which is these jobs of the future, in technology, there have been quite high barriers to entry. And what we're doing at Academy is we're helping people. I didn't go to university, and we're helping lots of people get access to these high-paid jobs through relevant, tailored training that is directly applicable to the sort of workplace. So I think it's a pretty tough decision, because the bills are going up, the tuition fees are going up, and the link between going to university and earnings is weaker than it's been in the past.
But if you had to give someone you cared about deeply, maybe a child you know really well, or your own child, and it has to be yes or no, should I go to university? What would you say?
I would never make the decision for them, but I have a 6-week-old daughter, Ivy Rose, and you think about what world is someone going to join with this, as you say, one of the biggest shifts we've ever seen. You have no idea what the jobs are going to be, let alone what the education you might need to go. And so I would be in the no camp.
Okay, interesting. Any other views?
Yeah, I think for us, we have several people that has never been to school or university for sure. I think it's all about learning, and is university the best place to learn? You can question that or answer that question in some scenarios, but I think it's all about continues to kind of prove impact. And I think what we typically say when we're hiring at Synthesia is kind of attitude over kind of skills. So I really think there's still a big arbitrage, and looking for people that just kind of really bring that can-do attitude, as opposed to big credentials or big network or stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd agree that university isn't like the only way to build your education. Equally, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's a personal choice at the end of the day, and I think it's just worth remembering as well that university isn't just about the course. Right? It's also about learning about life, learning about how to live independently, learning how to manage a budget, learning how to be financially responsible with your overdraft. Actually, another key thing, and we've talked about this, is networks and people. Some of my strongest networks are people that I met at university, who are now in lots of different industries I would never kind of potentially spend time with today if I had never gone to uni. I would have stayed potentially in a similar sort of circle. So I think that's just something to maybe remember, is that university isn't just about the course, which may or may not be helpful to your career, but actually it's a bit of a social education as well, which I wouldn't necessarily devalue.
Okay, great. Yeah. We're getting really good questions in now, so keep them coming. How would job applications change if AI can write your CV, cover letter, teach you how to do interviews? Are you going to change the way you recruit? I mean, that's a brilliant question.
I've really changed the way I've recruited for ERA. The CVs that I get coming to me have all sort of desensitized from a name, anything that I could tell whether they went to university or not. I just look solely at their experience first. So I think you mentioned it, it's like, what is it that they've done and achieved? Not even what university they went to, or did they even go, or what their name is, and what gender they are. So for me personally, that's already making a big difference, screening in that way.
Anyone else? Big changes?
I think it's definitely deserving of disruption. I think the way that we've recruited hasn't changed for too long now. But I would say, personally, I focus much more on, the sort of the interaction with the person and seeing curiosity. For me, it's more about attitude, actually, even sometimes over experience. And I think the way that some companies are starting to overcome that is I'm starting to see more and more companies asking for video applications. So rather than just submitting a CV and submitting maybe a cover letter, actually doing like a 5-minute video of this is who I am and this is why I'm interested in this role. So if I could give any advice to this room, it's get your elevator pitch down. If someone, it's the first question that almost always is asked in interviews, tell me about yourself.
Okay,
How can you
live
answer
question. Thank you, Sabrina.
Panel. I'm Claire Thorne, co-CEO of the charity Tech She Can, and also venture partner at Deep Science Ventures. We build science companies. It's really interesting. I suppose I've got a bit of a challenge to you all. My first comment would be around equity. I'd love to understand. I understand from Ash's organisation Academy, and we've heard a little bit today, but from others on the panel, how you're building equity into what you're doing in your organisations, because at Tech She Can we work with lots of schools, lots of children, particularly in disadvantaged areas, and Google is a strategic partner. They help us a lot, and we go into those schools and the children we work with will say to us, what you mean, miss, Google isn't just a box on a screen? We're like, no, it's a company, they're building technologies and you can build them and you can work there. So everything we've heard today is great, and it's obviously brilliant that we've got a lot of school people in the room, but how do we reach everybody, and how are you ensuring equity in your organisations? And then my second part
Let's take answers on that first, because that's a big
Sure.
topic. So who would like to answer that? Ash, you kicked us off, but would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think it also is related to the screens, you know, how the AI changed the sort of application process. Recruitment is fundamentally broken, especially in the sort of innovation or digital economy. We hear a lot about huge skill shortages. There are way more jobs of the future than there are people with the skills to do them jobs. And yet employers set very high barriers to entry and require all kinds of tick boxes to get in. And these sort of online application processes have often been a perpetuator of this issue. You can't even be considered by the company unless you meet these tick boxes, and that's an automatic online generated thing. And a bit like how schools are having to struggle now with people using AI to do coursework or whatever, I think it's going to question this from first principles, which is, is applications working? In my view, it's not, and there's a big opportunity now to rethink, actually, instead of screening people out because they don't tick boxes, can you screen the people in because they've got lots of potential and they could learn the skills to do these jobs? And so I think, to Claire's point, if we're intentional, it can be a huge leveler. And what we're seeing, you know, more than 60% of the people coming through our programs are women, more than 70% come from minority backgrounds, more than half have been on free school meals, coming from very underprivileged areas, now going on to do the jobs of the future. So I think, you know, employers need to step up and do things differently, and it could really unlock inclusivity.
And I think linked to that, I think that the two really do overlap. So we run a program called Future Stars, which I think we've had some applications from Working Options in the past, where across all of our 14 offices, we'll invite them in because everyone hears these buzzwords, venture capital, investment banking, and gets a little bit intimidated. It's not that intimidating. So we invite people in, they do a 2-week program covering all sorts of stuff, shadowing some of the other people who've been through the program. And then they just learn as much as they can about the industry. Some decide to come into it and then apply for jobs with it. Others just take it as that knowledge, but they learn not to be intimidated. And I think that's one of the things that we've changed with our recruitment. It is hard because people can create a really good CV now. And you have to think about the character traits. How do you really see someone's character traits? I think sport is a wonderful leveler. And we arranged a game. Actually, one of the most fun things we did with Working Options was we arranged a football match with the Working Options team and some of the best known entrepreneurs and investors in the world. So people that were running $5 billion funds, had built billion-dollar companies. And the Working Options team were all really nervous, quite intimidated when we first started, when I was going around and talking to them. And then literally within 30 seconds had decided they were going to kick these guys' asses. And did. They went 4-0 up. But you see the character traits. They were resilient. They suddenly worked out they're as good as everybody else. And it was great to see. We'll try and get some more of these questions. There was one brilliant one, which I think they've taken down, which was, how much are you all paid?
I know, that was brilliant.
I would love to hear that, but
Brilliant question.
maybe I'm not allowed to ask that. Okay, but
I think just on that, on being paid, you should be paid, be paid well for your job. And I also, as a woman, if you think you're not getting paid enough, well, then ask the question. Really, you're going to have to push yourself forward. I don't think it is always fair and equitable, especially in big corporates. I've been in a few. But I would say you have to, represent yourself well.
Okay,
and
good.
Be demanding.
New challenge for the panel. There's so many questions.
Yeah, one each.
Fast fire answers now. 30 seconds. How can students transition from being really good at gaming and using tech online to using that in the workplace? Who's good?
I feel I could say something. I've spent majority of my life playing games, and that's how it got me into computing. I would say the quick answer is use that as a gateway to see what you're interested in. So when I was playing games in the 90s, actually, it was very much black and white screen, and I was like, how can I play better? How can I install things quicker? So I started to be curious and seeing what can be done. And then later on, by the way, I think I almost failed my final year because of playing games, but I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. But it's how I could learn about the graphics, how I could learn about even creating the story for gaming. So it's about the different angle, using it as a gateway into that. I would encourage anyone who loves gaming, continue, but use that as a gateway to find what particular interests you.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, some of the best employees we have are very big gamers and have been in their childhood. So
yeah, it's a lot of problem solving, a lot of social skills,
strategy.
And also think about what brings you back to gaming. Why do you keep going back to gaming? It's because it's incentivizing. There's game theory in there. There's gamification theory. Apply that to the workplace. Bring it to the workplace. Bring your ideas to the workplace and how it can be just as addictive as gaming.
Mm-hmm. Good. If we didn't go to uni, what would you recommend we did?
I think actually you used to go to university to learn things and get a credential that means that employers would take you seriously. And in this world of technology and AI, the sets of jobs that are being created need skills that are not being taught in university. To the point of, I think Matt said things are still taught in the sort of Victorian era that are being taught now. But it is about learning. And now university is not necessarily the place to learn the things you need for the future, but you can learn them online, and there's all kinds of different ways. So I think, there's different places to get skills you need. So you can do almost anything without going to university.
Good.
Can I just say one thing?
Quick one.
Manish, my daughter's 11, and she did ask me this question, and she really loves drama. She's really lucky. She's just been in Matilda, the musical in the West End. Go and see it, it's great. But when she said, Mummy, do I have to go to uni? I said, absolutely not. Just do the thing you love. And if you love being on stage, just do it. So I think if you don't go to uni, that's absolutely fine. Just what is the thing that you love, and just take that to the nth degree.
Final question, really good question as well. What places, sources can students go to develop their tech skills? Steffen?
YouTube.
Yeah. I was going to say YouTube.
Or TikTok.
There's so many sources. Khan Academy. Blinkist is this amazing tool. I don't know if anyone's used that, where it summarizes all of these books in 10 minutes. It's like TikTok for books, learning, and lots more.
Google have got great courses if you want to do marketing.
Yes.
Google Squared.
I'm sure Nigel and the Working Options team would have a lot of resources on that side, though. Okay, good. Well, we are running out of time, so 20 seconds. So it just leaves me to do a big thank you to the panel, and thank you for the good questions.
So thank you for the inspiring panel and all what was received from the audience here. It was fantastic questions there. It is that time for lunch. Food is fuel, so we will be going out into the foyer to have lunch, and that will be till 1:30. Just a bit of an overview on this afternoon is going to look, sound and feel. After we come back from lunch, our teams of business people, we will return here to the auditorium. And students, you are going to go to your designated breakout rooms, and all that information is on the screens outside. I would just like to touch upon some other things as well. I just want to echo what Sabrina was saying in terms of the networking. This is a great opportunity for you all to network with these professionals, these inspiring professionals here. And just a few pointers on that, the best way to engage. If you are over 18, you can chat and you can take details, and we would recommend that you reach out using LinkedIn as a resource. And if you're under 18, if you just take the name and then we give that to your tutor and they will manage that relationship. And just to highlight as well, we've got working options teams and the volunteers from them who'll be circulating to assist you with all of that as well. And one last final thing, I'm going to be doing this very, very quickly. You've got a great opportunity outside for headshots. So we've got our photographers in a Ziggy Stardust room. So please get your headshots for those profile pictures and take advantage of that opportunity. So enjoy your lunch and we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you, everybody.